Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible in all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young, and I'm one of your verbose, taciturn hosts. Joining me, as always, is our other verbose and taciturn host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
I have so much crack.
I
Uh,
love
so um, we had a 5.7 earthquake yesterday.
it. Ooh,
Yes.
I did not know that. How was that?
Uh-huh. It was weird. I haven't like, have you ever been in an earthquake?
I have.
Okay. Where were you?
Taiwan.
Okay. So, like, maybe middle school. So I was like, I don't know, like 12 or 13 was the last time I was in an earthquake. And this was different, right? Because I'm an adult now,
Yeah.
obviously, with children who
Yeah.
are at school. And I have a child who's like highly afraid of natural disasters and weather. Um, so it lasted, I don't know, like 7 to 10 seconds, which is a long time when your whole house is shaking.
Yep.
But it was just kind of like, I was like, because we get like air traffic over our house with like big planes and jets, and the garbage truck is loud, and people have like jacked up loud cars. So I was like trying to like process. It took me like 3 or 4 seconds really to be like, oh, you're like everything is shaking. This is an earthquake. And then I was like, I'm standing in front of all the windows right now. So I like ran in the hallway, and Mike was working from home, and he was like, Beth, and I was like, I'm in the hallway. He's like, okay, I'm in the doorway. And we just kind of like, and the dog came running over,
Hmm.
and just yeah, we just kind of, some stuff fell off the walls, and um but the whole
Um,
time I'm thinking like, is my son gonna like be freaking out at
yeah.
school? And he was.
Yeah.
He said that he's 8, and he said that his heart hurt,
Oh no.
and he thought he was having a heart attack,
Oh
which that's like
no.
a panic attack, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a
So my
panic attack.
8-year-old had a panic attack at school. Um,
I hate to hear it.
I know, right? Same day that I needed to take Mike to the hospital to get his colonoscopy. So he's been doing like the colon clear out. And I was like, oh my God, what if they cancel your colonoscopy
Yeah.
after you've done all the drinking of all the fluids and you've shat all the shit, right? So, but that didn't happen. But like the kids were supposed to be home alone. This is like way longer than of a story than I need
That's
to be
interesting.
telling. But yeah, the kids were supposed to be home alone because I was going to take him and bring him home. But there was no way. I was trying to like write them a note because we had 8 aftershocks. And like,
Wild.
yeah. So I was like writing the note. I'm like, okay, and if there are aftershocks, make sure to like get out of the way from the windows and like stand in a doorway. And I'm like, I can't leave them. Like,
No.
so I dropped him off at the surgical center, came back. It's an hour drive each
I
way.
was gonna
Came back,
say,
got the kids. Yeah. Went back to the surgical center, got him. He has a clean butthole, so that's good.
it's a dream.
Um, but the weird thing is, I took the kids and Mike Sunday up to the Julian Mining Company that I took you
Oh, I
to.
saw you. I saw pictures from it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so if we had gone yesterday instead of Sunday, we would have been in the mine
When that
in
happened.
the when it happened. So, and I guess like they had one in Julian. That's where the epicenter was
Ooh,
4 miles from our house. So,
jeez.
I know, right? So, they'd had one on Sunday, like a quick, like it was like maybe like a 3.1 or something. But yeah, so it's just been, and I know we're on a very active part of the San Andreas Fault, but
Okay.
it was kind of a big deal. So
Yeah, that's nuts. I
yeah.
um. So that is that the first one you've had since you've been living
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that we
Um.
felt, yes. It
Yes.
was like, and like Harper was at school, my daughter, and she was like, those parachutes where you like fling the parachute up and everyone's like holding on to the outside of the parachute,
Yep.
and then you sit on it and you're in the parachute.
Yep.
That's where she was when the earthquake hit.
No,
So they
really?
couldn't see what was happening. They were like, is it a jet? Is it a garbage truck? And then she was like, and then everyone started screaming. I
Oh
was like, oh
no.
God.
Wild.
Anyways.
Did you get The same guide as we had last time when you went to the Gillian
I
Lang.
did. I did.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
got
good stuff.
Matthew. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's what I was hoping for because he's like worth the like no money that we paid them, you
Yeah,
know?
so true.
So yeah, he was in good form.
I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so my so the earthquakes happened quasi regularly in Taiwan. They're
Mhm.
also on a pretty active fault line, and I didn't know. I didn't even notice they were happening most of the time, and it was people, friends of mine, my girlfriend at the time, who when I was living out there, who were like, "Oh, there's an earthquake." I'm like, "What do you mean? There's an earthquake happening right now?" And I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Just sit down and
Yeah.
notice you're kind of at least your kind of sense of equilibrium. It's almost like you're on a roller coaster or something. It's like, whoa, okay, yeah." And
Mhm.
otherwise, if you're just walking about doing stuff, it's easy to kind of just not notice it. But the most significant one was I was at a friend's house. I think we were watching TV or something, and his like his washing machine just started going nuts. And I was like, "Oh, is that the spin cycle?" I'm like, your washing machine. Did you put the washing machine on? Like, what? That spin cycle's crazy." And he's like, "Oh no, we're having an earthquake." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay, are we?" And then I noticed lots more things were shaking, not just the washing machine. I was like, "Holy shit!" Um, but yeah, they're like
You carry that denial of earthquakes pretty far, Andy.
very much so.
You're like, what is wrong with your washing
Whoa.
machine?
But it's like, I mean, at that juncture, I had no real context for what the hell that was, And like,
Yeah.
again, there's never any earthquakes in this country. Like, we just, it's just not something we have any sort of experience with or like connection to how that might even feel. So yeah, that was my first thought was, man, you need to look at your washing machine. It's fucked. It's going nuts. That spin cycle's too much. Um, but yeah, so I'm glad that you survived it. It's
I
great.
know. Yeah, it's just
Very
like,
glad.
yeah. I
Um,
could have, it's like basically I could have driven to LA and back yesterday for all the driving. Yeah.
but you were so close to the epicenter as well, so
Yeah.
so you were getting the biggest sort of like impact from it.
Yeah. It was definitely like, you know, it's different. Like we've got such a the area that we are, I think, is so volcanic and like
Hmm.
there's so many giant rocks. So it wasn't like the waviness that you talk about. It wasn't like that. It was
Yeah.
like it felt like I people say that it sounds like a train coming,
Yes.
which I didn't hear. I just heard like the earth shaking. I don't know how else to explain it.
So interesting.
It's and like it's like and then we were like running around the house and like making sure that like the pool like the foundation of the house didn't crack and the
Yeah.
pool's not like leaking everywhere like whatever and everything's totally fine. And then I started to take myself like out of like okay, catastrophe and everyone's fine and like push aside like the humanness of it.
Hmm.
And like earthquakes are so fucking cool.
They are. I mean, they're
Like
terrifying, but they're cool as fuck.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was so like it happened, but like at the same time, it's just so neat that like that the earth has pressure that needs to be like
Yeah.
off gassed, right?
I know it is. It is. I mean,
Tectonic plates.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, they're so fascinating, and it does make you feel. They're I could like my experience of them was humbling, a very kind of humbling experience. Is like,
Yeah.
oh shit, the power of the
Yeah.
earth. Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Right. And
Um,
then we took the dog for a walk like right before it happened, came home, and maybe like 3 or 4 minutes later it happened. Uh and then I was thinking back, I'm like, did she act differently? And like, no, she was her same like normal dog self. So
just thought it was some sort of neat
useless,
rocking,
useless.
colossal rocking chair that she
Yeah,
was in. She's like,
right.
"Hooray."
She's like, I know.
um,
What's the crack with you?
okay, so
Top that.
top that, right? Check this out. Um, so I mean, pretty seismic for Andy's life. I had
Okay.
the very last choir show that I'm going to be. Well, where I'm going to be at the head of the choir, I guess.
Yes.
Um, I think there's a certain amount of denial amongst other people in the committee about what I've actually done because at one point I was like, so at one point I was like, I'm so glad I've quit, and somebody's like, you haven't quit. I'm like, I have quit. I've stepped back. That's what that means. If you step back, you quit. You're saying that I'm not doing this anymore, right?
Right.
Um, so many, it was great, and I must say the choir had sounded better than they have. I really see
Good.
improvements over the years. They really have sounded so much better. But like I am also kind of like on our very last rehearsal, Vanessa, who I work with, who did our last, she was like, did everybody sound flat? Did we sound okay? And I'm like, I honestly have no idea. I have not. I'm completely tuned out of it. I'm like thinking about other things. I'm thinking about the shit that needs done for the show, etc., etc. But the night itself was such a great reminder of why I am completely done with it because it was just, you know, people give me a hard time for not delegating.
Hmm.
The stuff I delegated, I had to handle, which is really
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Because like it's like I give it people all the information they need, but they still are like, Andy, what about this? And I'm like, you could look at your phone and not hassle me when I'm doing a million and one other things. Um, so frustrating. The similar sort of issues with the booking form not going through. There was three different groups that were booked to use the hall that night. It was a whole so we did they managed to get two of them into like in a different room, but then there wasn't enough chairs. We had to go and find chairs last minute. It was a whole pain in the ass. Um, but so yeah, so very happy it's over. I mean, it's not entirely because there's still like a lot of crap needs to be handed over, But yeah, I am
Has someone stepped in to take over your
not
role?
exactly. The committee's going to be handling all of this. A lot of the stuff's going to be delegated to them. A lot of stuff has been delegated to them. So I did after the event, I put together a list of duties I did over the course of the 2 years, and it was a page and a half of just
Wow.
different listed things. Yeah. And I was like, there you go. And I'm like, okay. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I don't think anybody is stepping into my role completely, but the committee is taking over all this kind of stuff, and I think they're going to see about voting in somebody again. But I feel like maybe I mentioned this last time. The amount of conversations I've had with people, and they're like, "Why are you leaving?" And I'm like, "It was a lot of work, and it was deeply stressful." And they're like, "Was it stressful?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's wild to me. Like people have no conception whatsoever." Oh, anyway,
No, it's like
hooray!
event planning. I think I've told you this a few times. It's like one of the top five most stressful jobs in the
Yeah.
United States.
Oh,
It's
really?
so
I didn't know
stressful.
that. Okay.
Yes, up there
And
with like emergency room doctors.
and like people have. I mean, I don't need respect, but I just need a little bit of understanding. Do you know what I mean? And there's so little of that, And it
Yeah.
was, but so yeah, happy. I'm handed it
Yep.
off. I think whoever takes over from me is not going to be fully aware of what they've stepped into until they've stepped into it, But not my problem.
I'm
Uh,
so proud of you
thank you.
for I'm not gonna say stepping back, for quitting.
Yes. Yes, me too.
Was it stressful?
And like, immediately fill the gap. There's a vacuum, the vacuum has kind of filled in certain ways, but it has. I'm very glad that I've made the decision that I did, and I
Yeah,
keep being reminded why I did it.
good.
Um, I also, since we last spoke, saw Novocaine. Do you know Novocaine? It's a movie.
Oh, with oh,
Jack Quaid.
thank you. I was like the offspring of Meg Ryan and Randy
Yes,
Quaid.
yeah, that's him. That's him.
Not Randy Quaid. Randy
Uh,
Quaid?
no,
Which are the Quaid brothers?
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis, yeah,
Sorry. Randy Quaid is the one that like lost his mind and ran to Canada,
that's
right?
correct. That is correct. So
He
yeah,
knew things.
he did know things. Yeah, yeah, he'll maybe be proved prophetic in a few years' time. Um, so it was
Was
very
it?
good. Sorry, go on.
I saw the promotion for it when I
Yeah,
was in LA, so
I
it
mean, he's
was like
great.
all over the place. I love him.
He's a cutie pie. It was very entertaining, and it
That's
had
a
like,
perfect description.
yeah.
He's
Like
total cutie pie.
he is a totally cutie pie, and he and he's just a lovely like, screen presence, and he did some fun
Mhm.
things with the concept. So it was like it's not the sort of thing that's going to like blow anybody's mind, but I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun time at the movies, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that, I must say. I'm really kind of like excited for Sinners.
I don't know what that
So
is.
Sinners is Michael B. Jordan's new movie, essentially about
Okay.
he plays, I think, brothers that open like this sort of like off the books nightclub thing, and then vampires attack basically.
Oh,
And
fun.
yes,
Okay.
it looks great. The trailer's fantastic, and the reviews have been great, so I'm super excited for it. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what's been happening with me. Um, do you have any what's occurring for us
I
this week?
do. I do.
Ooh.
So we had someone reach out about at some point we were talking about Iron Man in the last, I don't
I
know.
was gonna bring this up too. Go on.
Okay. Um and someone argued with me about the fact that Tom Morello was in one of the opening scenes in the cave
Yeah,
and sent me a photo and was like, "This isn't Tom Morello." And
yeah,
I was like, "No, no." So I went to where you go when you want to find the actual truth of things, Reddit.
sure.
And someone else was like, Tom Morello was in the cave in Iron Man. And
Yeah.
so I screenshotted it and I was like, actually, yes. And they were like, you're right. And I was like, that's right, I'm right.
In your face.
In your face.
He was texting me about it as well.
He also said Tom Morello wasn't in Rage Against the Machine. And I was like, yeah, I
Yeah, he
was.
was.
I have to respond. So I'm not gonna like drop the Wikipedia page on him, but actually I'm gonna.
Yeah, do
Uh,
do do. Just
uh-huh.
just just send him all the stuff. Um,
I just love that about it's like the Flea, right? Like he just kind of shows up in places.
yeah. I mean, like I expected more from Flea because like Flea, I don't
Yeah.
know, for whatever reason, that's just what Flea did for years, and it was just he would just be like this random guy. And I remember, I think he was like, was he a guy in a bathroom in like
Yes. He's
Fear the
always the guy in the
Thing?
bathroom.
Yeah, he's the guy in the bathroom who's on drugs. Yeah, which is a role he knows all too well. Uh,
I saw some TikToker wherever people see the things on the internet, and it was
uh-huh.
like this person standing on Hollywood Boulevard just like rocking out uh
Nice.
playing sorry, a Red Hot Chili Peppers song and
Okay.
like didn't realize that the person that she was playing to was Flea.
Oh,
Just
no
yeah,
way.
I know, right? So someone's got the video of it and she found it and was like, I had no idea. I'm like, Flea is everywhere.
He
And
probably,
apparently
I'm sure he
so is
loved
Tom
that.
Morello. I know. I'm gonna look at his because like if you don't let's see, I'm checking out his IMDb page.
He seemed like, yeah, I know, because I mean, he seems like a guy who's had, certainly a wild life, but I think
Totally.
a fairly compassionate dude, and like he seems like relatively kind. I think, he certainly has had his problems, but he seems like a kind guy. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm DBing
it's quite right.
Tom Morello. He was in Dungeons and Dragons.
Tom Morello's in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. Honor Among Thieves. He plays Kimathi Stormhollow.
Okay.
He's
I
in
mean,
everything.
I had no idea. Like I said, I know I would recognize Flea. I just guess
What?
I wouldn't have spotted Tom Morello. You know what? Why not?
I know. I'm so excited. So okay, Tom Morello, closet nerd.
He is a closet nerd. Good. One of us.
Like
One
D&D
of
and
us.
comics.
One
I love
of
it.
us.
Okay. One of us, one of us. So
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, we sussed that out for the
We
world.
did. We did. We did.
Okay. I have one other thing.
Go for it.
So all the campaigning that we've done to get stunts into the
Oh,
Oscars
yep. I did saw this. Uh-huh.
came to fruition. I mean, obviously, we had some help from Ryan from
Yep.
The Fall Guy, obviously, with all of his promotions, but I think really we were probably the type that
I think we were like 90% of the campaign, right? I
I
mean,
think so. I
realistically, at a
think so.
minimum,
Yeah.
90%. And
So
like, I
I
think,
I think we need to be part of the academy at this point
mm.
and be watching movies and voting.
Or at a minimum, we need to be given an Oscar each. Um,
Yeah, I would take that.
yeah, I mean, like, we can, that'll be one piece of the puzzle for us to get our EGOT,
Mhm.
I'm going to be working on my musical this year. It's going to get a Tony nomination
I
for
forgot we were going for
sure.
the EGOT.
Yeah.
I heard there's also the EGORT.
Okay.
So the R is have you heard of the Razzies?
Yes.
So like if you make a really bad movie, you
Yes.
can get a Razzie. And so like it's really like if you want to go all the way, you get the EGORT, not the EGOT,
Well,
which I love.
who's got an Igor? That's fascinating.
I don't
I
know if anybody has.
oh oh apparently nobody. Oh no no no. Has
No.
anybody? Oh, okay, so only Al Pacino is only a Grammy Award away from getting his E-Court. He might get a Grammy. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? You might. You believe in
Okay.
yourself, you know.
Somebody's got it, right? Somebody's got to put them on something.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Shall we get on to this week's
Yes.
topic?
Yes.
Which is so I'm calling it the art of conversation,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're just going to talk about because like this was something I've been thinking about, and it's something I think about all the time. Is that like not what is conversation, but more do I like it? How do I feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like how do other people think about it? You know, because it's like it's such a sort of like part of the social contract, but it's always something that I struggle with. I think and I thought it would be a worthwhile topic of conversation.
To
That
talk
is
about conversation.
conversation. Yeah, a conversation about
This is
conversations.
this is really this is a
This
good
is
intro.
super masturbatory,
Think
but it's fine.
so
Hmm.
um I also did a little digging
Uh-huh.
and like conversation because I was like, I think conversation is different in our countries.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And so I'd like to dig into that a little bit
Yes,
too.
I love it.
So, conversation definition, a more interactive form of communication that involves an exchange of ideas, thoughts, or feelings between two or more people.
Mm,
Characteristics requires active participation and engagement from all parties, typically involves back and forth dialogue, often more spontaneous and informal compared to structured talks. And then there's, I just typed in Irish conversation
hmm
and like communication, and there's like verbal and nonverbal is like a big thing.
Okay. Uh,
Uh,
That's yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that I think. I mean, we'll get into it, like in terms of, what conversation is. Is it literally
mhm,
just the words? Is it just, a kind of
mhm.
free flowing sort of like chat, or is it, all the parts of communication, like the nonverbal things, the cues, that we give that are, smiles, the eye movement, so on and so forth. Um, but I suppose the thing that I kind of wanted to lead off with was, do you enjoy conversation generally? Is it something that you seek out?
I can talk to anybody,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are good.
um, but it's rare that I like find someone where I want to actually like engage
Yes.
in a conversation. And I would say like obviously like one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast with you is because you're one of those people.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but like you were just talking about our tour guide at the mine up in
Yeah.
Julian, and this guy is like so I can't I'm trying to like so I'm trying to talk
Yeah.
the way he talks, right? Like
He's
so he's
yeah,
like
he's like a SoCal surfer dude.
yeah,
And he like knew a lot about the star signs and things like that, as I recall.
he did. Yeah, I was talking a lot about like star signs, but I don't know. It's like he needed to be in Oceanside, like with flip-flops and a burrito. Like that's
Yes.
how like Southern Californian he is, but he knows so much about rocks.
Yeah.
And he's like telling you about like the metamorphic, Jurassic, and Mesozoic or whatever periods. And I just want to know how this Southern Californian dude ended up in the mine up in Julian,
Yeah.
right? Giving tours because he's really good at it and he's funny and like he's got his own because like I remember we were talking to him and he was telling us like he had his own plot of land
Yeah.
and that we could like go by and like he would give us a tour and we could like try to swing a rock. I don't know. It's just like how did you get here, right?
Yeah.
So like I would like to sit him down for like a 6 hour conversation,
There
right?
you
And
go.
figure out
Exactly.
what's going on. Um and not to say that most people are boring, but most people are kind of boring. So,
Yes. No,
so I don't know. Like,
I,
if it's
I,
the right person, I'm totally in.
I think that in my experience, and this is just, how I kind of encounter the world and how I feel about it, is like a lot of people talk but don't really say anything. Like like I mean, in terms of conversation, as the idea of anything free flowing and open ended is Mars is fairly terrifying to me because
Yeah,
like I like to know what things are, what the shape of things are and that sort of thing. But like I I love nothing more than listening to somebody talk passionately about something they love. I find that like really kind of like surface level stuff is just kind of like what are we doing here. And I can do a little bit, but I tend to like, if it's something that I'm like, and it depends on the person as well. And the people that I love, I can absolutely talk to and I enjoy spending time in their company. Um, but like I kind of like there to be a point to the
yeah,
conversation,
yeah,
a lot of the time. So I like knowing that like once I've kind of figured out what that is, I can go, okay, bye.
right.
You know?
How do I extricate myself
Yeah.
from this? How do I get home as
Woo.
fast as possible?
Yeah. And then the loneliness sets in.
I
But
know.
yeah.
You know what's interesting? Because like a typical like meeting someone new conversation, it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hi, what do you do?" Like, "How long have you lived here?" I would say the best conversations I've ever had were at Burning Man.
Hmm.
Sorry to talk about Burning Man again, everybody, but like there you don't talk about what you do for a living. Most people don't even use their real names.
Yeah.
So when you walk up to someone, you just drop into something deep usually,
I love it.
and it's cool.
Yeah.
It's way cool. And so part of me is like, have we like having been in another, community structure, like have we set ourselves up for communication failure?
I think we certainly set the community or up for very narrow conversation. There's not room for like a lot of emotion and things like that. There's certain subjects that are kind of off limits. It's such a shame. And it's like I feel like, I've had conversations with people that have led to them talking about something that makes them cry, and like almost inevitably somebody will go, I'm sorry. And I'm like, never apologize for crying.
Hmm.
It's like it's something that happens. I am glad that I provided the space that you felt you could do that, and so on and so forth. But like it's just I think that we have. I think I think it hurts that people can't express themselves honestly in conversation a lot of the time. I think there isn't a lot of room for that, unfortunately.
Is there a set like structure for like chit-chatting in your culture?
Yeah, I suppose there is, but it's like I think I was gonna say I think it's the same everywhere. I don't know that, but like it's a lot of like a bit of banter in this country. People will be a bit of give you a bit of cheeky nonsense, and
Hmm.
then they'll talk about the weather and
Hmm.
they'll talk about certain other things. Something that like my girlfriend and I were talking about it recently, and things that are notable. There's certain things that will be brought up. Oh, this person got engaged. Oh, this person got married. Oh, they had kids. But
Uh-huh.
like, there's, other stuff can be diminished in the face of that a lot of the times. You know what I mean? Those are the things that are worthy of being brought up, and it can often be somebody that you haven't spoken to in 20 years, and it's like, oh, okay. I mean, like, I don't care, honestly, but yeah, I guess
Right,
that's a thing that's happened.
right. So I another part of like communication that bothers me is, and what I noticed being in Ireland with you was how everyone seems to acknowledge each other
Mhm.
and their
Yeah,
existence. And maybe it's there's just so many people here. But we don't. Like
that's
even in the
interesting.
neighborhood, I'll be walking and like, obviously there's like one other person that's walking and I'm like, hello, and they won't respond. And I'm just like, wow.
That's kind of like, I mean, I know that, and it definitely happens. There's that the idea of like isolation in big cities because,
Mhm,
like, yes, you're surrounded by people, but people just won't talk to each other. But like, I'm really surprised and it's slightly disappointed that is because your town's not massive, that it's a bit
mhm,
more small town. I would have hoped
mhm,
that people would be a bit more friendly, but you're right, and I think by and large people are more, certainly, where I live, if you walk past somebody, you may say hello,
mhm,
especially if you're the only two people there, you
mhm,
know.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I like that feel. I think that's just going to result in people being more closed off generally. If they, especially if you make this like conversational gambit and it's like, you get nothing, you get silence in
Yes,
return.
yes, yes. It's weird.
It
It's
is.
weird. And I'm envious, I guess, that it's like how people need physical touch and need hugs
Yep.
every so often, right? Um, like I think that people need to have their presence acknowledged.
Hmm.
And I think about that a lot with going off on tangents, sorry, but like with people that are houseless
Yep.
and how often they're ignored and people won't make eye contact with them at all.
Yeah.
And I like that's one of the things that they talk about being so hard. It's like I feel like I'm invisible. And it's like we do that to everybody here. And it's not just like Southern California, it's like everywhere I've ever lived kind of thing. So I think it's an
Yeah.
American thing, which is really it's just, I maybe not so much in like the South, but I
Yeah.
just feel like there's so much of just, you know, talking to people in general is just kind of like going by the wayside.
It is true. And I think, in with regards to other, us getting online more and that the idea was that was a socializing thing, but they're just fucking anxiety machines, and it seems
They
like they are
are.
having the adverse effect. I mean, when we've talked about with, on friendship episodes and stuff like that, how there is almost like a friendship epidemic in terms of like, a lot of people with no close friends and things like that. And it's I think probably it's connected to conversation. It's connected to, I think, people struggling to make that leap, to try to kind of like throw something out there and see what
Mhm.
happens.
So I think by like engaging in small talk with people, Andy, you're doing like your civic duty.
Uh, can I not do it in a different
I
way?
know. So like there's like I dug a little in my mind garden
Hmm.
and like it gives examples of like how to have a conversation and like lead with a compliment, be kind and friendly and use open body language. And number three is embrace small talk. I
Gross.
know Andy just gave me a stink face.
Um, I I think, I mean, like, I do kind of do small talk, but like I really struggle with people I don't know. And like,
Mhm.
if it's people, through organizations I know, like for example, through the choir or through like yoga classes I teach and things like that, I can do a little bit of, you know, a few minutes here and there just talking about things. Like my kind of problem is that I really don't want to. I feel like there's a certain amount of dishonesty to the surface level kind of chat a lot of the time, and
Interesting.
I don't really have a desire to engage with that. Like it was funny today, as I was leaving, I was teaching a yoga class, and I were walking out, and two of the ladies that come to my class, and they turned around to me and they said, "So do you practice? Do you do stuff in your mat every day?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Well, are you not supposed to say yes?" And I'm like, "Maybe, but I don't, and I don't want to lie to you." And I'm like, probably through teaching and through attending classes. I probably do yoga most days, but like I don't I find it hard to motivate myself on the mat. I really prefer the setting of a class. I like the energy there. I kind of like it's a nice mixture for me in that I can be relatively isolated, but also surrounded by the energy of other people, which is quite a
Hmm.
nice compromise for me.
Hmm.
But I think that like it really did make me laugh how surprised she was whenever I was like, no, I
No.
don't.
Yeah.
Because it's true. And I just have no interest in doing the social thing, which is like, yes, of course, I'm a yoga teacher. Yoga's my life. I live and
Right.
breathe yoga, and et cetera, et cetera. It is super important to me, but this is the honest reality of it.
You don't have time,
I don't
honestly.
have time, honestly, no. No, that's true.
Just the idea of you having like a daily practice makes me
Oh,
laugh.
I'm friggin' tired already without the thought of that. And
Hmm.
I do exercise most days, but I'm like, oh, I can't also friggin' squeeze a daily yoga practice in there as well.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. So, number four is ask good questions.
hmm I'm good at
Number
that.
five is, yeah, show empathy and engage in active listening.
I think I'm good at that.
I, you already know this about me. I'm an interrupter.
Uh-huh.
And I do sometimes think ahead, like you're talking and I'm listening, but I'm already thinking about like, oh, this is, triggering something in me that I want to share. And part of that is because we're podcasting and that's what you're supposed to do, right?
True.
But I do get excited and I can actually be like the annoying interrupter. And I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it. I know.
But like
Don't shame me.
I won't shame you. I absolutely won't because it's also sometimes that's not saying that you're not listening. It's you're saying that because also sometimes in conversations, people can start talking about something, and within the first few sentences, they've said well, all they kind of really need to say on it, but then they try to like they talk around it a little bit more. So you're kind of like, okay, I have all the pertinent information here. I'm ready to move on. That's okay, I think. I think that's an okay place to be in. Um, so I don't think you're anything to apologize for there. No, I think that's just I mean, or maybe we're just both rude. It's a
Yeah.
possibility. Let's not rule that out, I suppose. But yeah,
I had
I'm.
a I
Mhm.
had a guy that I when back in my event planner days, I had a golf cart or department. I
Ooh,
had a sweet tricked out golf cart. It was
hmm
street legal, but it
nice.
was always breaking. And so the repairman for the golf cart, like I've never had to actually tell someone like you need to stop talking. I have to hang up the phone. So there are people out there that I think, yeah, it's like stream of consciousness.
Yes.
And they just go and go and go and go and go. And it's not like he didn't understand social cues. He just didn't care and he wanted to talk.
I I have definitely encountered people like that. I really like
Mhm.
somebody I used to work with who would go around the office and talk about how she was so busy, but she would like spend 30 minutes with each person in a long conversation, mostly about how busy she was. And I'm like, dude,
Right.
you'd be way more efficient. You wouldn't have as much on your plate if you didn't talk everybody's leg off. Um, but yeah, I in it in we are talking about like connection changing the nature of it, with like social media and things like that. And I
Hmm.
definitely think there is I totally understand why people would want to reach out and would want to, have a conversation. And I feel like it's such a kind of, symptom of how disconnected we all are, that people don't really get that sometimes, so therefore like um somebody they don't know at all, they'll just kind of absolutely talk their leg off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always feel so guilty about that as well. See, if I'm just like talking and talking, and it so rarely happens to me, I'm just like, oh, this person's haven't listened to whatever shit I'm spouting here. I'm just getting talked at. It kind of flies in the face a wee bit of me saying how much I love. I truly do love hearing people talk passionately about a subject, especially a subject I know nothing about, because it's lovely to see that sort of passion for something.
Mhm.
I find it really infectious.
Yeah. And we've talked about it before, how there's certain people that have a storytelling gift,
Yes.
and I do not, and I know that, and I apologize to everyone. Uh, but it's so great to be around a
Oh,
storyteller. And
yeah.
my dad was a storyteller, and so like growing up with that was so great, and not having that. And then we had a friend that passed away. Oh, I don't know, probably it's been 10 years now.
Uh-huh.
But he was from New Zealand and living in Moorea, but had lived in the Cook Islands, and had like he had 9 sons, and four had been married 4 times. Like just that, like
Well,
what kind of life? Tell me. And
yeah.
would, and but just uh those were some of the best evenings I've ever had in my life.
I And it's so rarely it's happened to me when somebody's telling me something and like the hairs are standing up in my arm. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
like I'm just so in it. Like yeah, I agree. It's really magical. It truly is. And I think that's sadly another kind of discipline that's like fading
Mhm.
away.
It is. And there are like books written about it. I looked a bit. It's like, people, the art of storytelling is like uh it is an art, obviously.
Absolutely.
And, maybe I need to do some reading about it. But I also think you're just born a storyteller, or you're
Yeah.
not.
I
So,
think you're right. And I think what has happened is a lot of the times those sorts of gifts have been co-opted for like, a salesman, or do you know what I mean? Because like, for
yes.
years, for generations and generations, that's just how stories were passed down a lot of the time,
Yeah.
was by
All
stories
the
being told from,
oral history.
yeah, but
Or
like
the game of telephone.
the game of telephone and Dave. It's because like one of the, and I'm getting ahead of myself, like what's been bringing me joy is something that I've been reading, and it is so conversational, and it's just lovely. It's just lovely
Really?
spending time in. Because I think a good story to me kind of has the sides, but they're like they don't go on too long. They're aware
Mhm.
that they need to get back to the point. And I feel like there's something lovely, something like that's meandering, but not too far away from the kind of center of it, is really kind of special. And it's hard to do, I
Mhm.
think.
Mhm. I'm excited to hear what it is. Um, okay, so Irish nonverbal
Hmm.
communication, they say that there's physical contact,
Yes.
but like slap on the back, gestures, that kind of thing, personal space. Irish
Yeah.
people tend to maintain an arm's length distance between themselves and others when speaking. Do you guys have like close talkers?
Yes, but it's not the same. Like I really noticed this, especially when I've been in bigger cities, even in the UK, like the sort of your personal bubble, I think in Britain is way wider than it would be in the US generally.
Hmm.
People tend to like that. They need that sort of space around them. People can kind of freak out if that's kind of breached a wee bit.
Yeah. No, we have like talkers that are like tailgaters, where they get right up in your grill, and
Yeah.
and you can feel the spit on your face.
Oh, it's happened to me before, and I'm just like, oh man.
You're a close talker. And then you try to like move away a little bit, and then they like move with you.
You're like, I need to go to the bathroom. And then
Right.
I sit in the bathroom for half an hour. That's the
Uh,
dream.
you're right. It says that eye contact is the norm. So you guys are good at
That's
eye contact.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I'm not good at eye contact, but yeah, I think that's probably true.
Gestures, not you're not a hand talkers. You don't have excessive use of hand
I
gestures.
think that's fair. Yep.
Huh. It's like
Um,
I can't sometimes I like to trick my brain into like, moving neurons around and attaching. I sit on my hands.
Interesting.
It's so hard to talk without your hands. I don't understand.
Like, it's one of the things that I really struggle with is that aspect of communication and we've talked about in this podcast before about me trying to get like a diagnosis or figure out
Hmm.
whatever is going on with my brain. Like, but I find communication, I don't know if you can call like texting conversation, but like I guess you can't you can be conversing over text, but like I find the lack of body language, of physical cues to be so stressful. Like, and it's one of the reasons why I don't really like text, not much, especially with
Hmm.
guys, because like it's just like here's a sentence with a full stop at the end. I'm like, oh, why are you cross with me? Please don't be cross with me. And I know that that's not the case, but I just find, and it's why like how I text is like lots of exclamation marks and stuff or smiley faces because I'm like,
Yes.
you need to know I'm happy. I'm happy. We're having a nice time. Um,
Because you're actually a golden retriever.
yes, very much so. But like so it's why I think that because I can hear the tone of voice if I'm speaking to somebody on the phone. That's definitely better. But there's a whole range of other stuff that's happening if I'm with somebody that I just find so instructive, and so like even though I'm probably not in love with like conversation in any aspect, I think in person is by far my preference.
Hmm. I, for me, it's like situational. Like
Mm.
there are people I much prefer to text with
I understand. Yeah,
than have a, and also it's like I'm so far away from so many people that I know that I kind of have like phone phobia a little bit. Like talking on the phone kind of stresses me out.
I understand that
So
completely.
texting is preferable to talking on the phone, but yeah, I would say for most people, like an in-person conversation would be that's kind of like what definitely feed me. It feeds me.
I, I no, I think yeah, I think that definitely my preference. I really, one of the things I struggle most with conversations is knowing how to finish them.
Hmm.
How to successfully extricate myself from those, and like the people I like kind of like feel the closest to. I kind of no, that's not true. So some of my closest friends are people that I can literally be talking to them on the phone and be like, okay, I'm done now. Bye.
Yeah.
And they're
Right.
not they're not going to be upset with me because I'm just
Right.
kind of like I just either like I'm not even going to give them some sort of half-assed excuse for like you know me. Oftentimes I am busy and I've got shit to do, but like also I'm kind
Hmm.
of like I'm not just going to be like here's what I'm doing. I'm just going now, and
Hmm.
great to talk to you. Bye.
My
Uh,
dad would say, like, at the end of a meal, like with his family and his cousins, like growing up, he'd be like, all right, I'm dropping the fork. And he would drop his fork and leave.
Amazing.
I know, right? The
Oh,
freedom in that. I know. He just didn't give a shit.
what a legend.
So this is like a small aside. So, like, I have an Android cell phone.
Yeah.
And so, like, I message you over WhatsApp because it's cheaper and international stuff. But
Yep.
I guess I had like the wrong thing toggled. So every time I would send someone an emoji, it would would come up as a question mark.
Amazing.
So my sister was texting me about like we had a family member that was had to go to the urgent care and
Uh-huh.
they're fine, everything's fine, but I was like thanking her and like we're conversing and I was using all these emojis and she was like, "Why are you using all these question marks?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, I was sending cat faces and she's like, "No, you're sending me." So I don't know how many people I've been offending,
But like, and that's one of the most stressful things about that. I mean, like,
right?
it's what's stressful about all of this stuff
Like,
because it's
thank
easier.
you, question mark, question mark, question mark, right?
So passive
I'll see you
aggressive.
then, question mark,
Yeah.
right?
So good. And because you really do not know how these things are going to arrive for somebody else, or even if they
No.
have arrived, and like I remember like early days of having phones sending messages to people and they hadn't got them for whatever reason, and me being going like, oh
Yeah.
God, what have I done? Have I said something
Yeah.
that's offended them? Have I upset them? But
Yes.
it's just like
Yes.
technology, it's a
Yes.
fucking motherfucker. At least I have like automatic responses when I'm in person with somebody. Um, Well, so
I have one other thing that you
okay,
guys do or don't do.
okay.
You don't point. You An Irish person may nod or jerk their head or chin in the direction of what is discussed rather than pointing their finger.
That's probably true. Yeah,
Huh.
in my
That's
experience.
so polite.
I think pointing is seen as being rude here. Yeah, that
Hmm.
tracks. I do I point? I don't think so. I don't think I probably do. That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't even considered it. Yeah, yeah. I think that's very
Hmm.
fair.
Hmm.
What do you think American nonverbal communication is like?
I
To me, you talked about hand talking, and I definitely think about
uh,
American people generally as being more
we
animated.
yes, like look at our politicians.
True.
Like everyone has a certain, like their gesture, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say we definitely uh we're kind of just crass. I think we're a lot more like huggy. I think, yeah, our
Yes.
personal space doesn't really exist. Like you have to teach
Agreed.
your child about their personal bubble.
Yep.
Um, and so it's fun. You'll hear like, kids that are in like first or second grade, like, you're in my bubble, get out of my bubble. Cause like that's when you start to teach them that they have a personal bubble.
Yep.
We're terrible at eye contact.
Interesting. Okay.
And yeah, we use our hands to gesture and we point the fuck out of everything. We're
Yeah,
always pointing.
that's absolutely been my experience too. Yeah, that's so
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like I think,
And I think we're passive aggressive and there's a lot of like eye rolling.
oh shit. Same here, I think. I really
Yeah.
do. I think it's expressed differently, but I definitely think it happens here for sure.
Hmm.
Um, like I think that, when I think about American communication generally, I think there's more honesty in American communication. Like I'm not saying that that's entirely true. I think people will more likely speak true rather than trying to save somebody's feelings or, not, or just the desire not to cause trouble. Whereas I think people in this country will oftentimes bury stuff down rather than voicing it, and it will
Hmm.
just, eat away at them in other ways.
Hmm. I think if it, I think uh, creating conflict is sometimes celebrated here.
No, yeah, that's true.
Like, look at our TV shows, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
all because I watch The Real Housewives. Like, that's all they do is fight and create conflict. And so
Um,
you see that on TV, right? And then, you know, just knowing like what happens at the middle school and high school from some of the parent stories,
yeah,
like these kids are creating conflict on purpose and
pretty
bullying each
nuts, like.
other over it. I know.
Um, so two things that occur to me. I'm gonna try to remember both of them, but um, you were talking about like TV shows, and I just wanted to mention to you. I don't. So we have, Big Brother, the
Hmm.
TV show. So Big Brother's
Hmm.
more. I know. I remember seeing American Big Brother, and I feel like it's quite different to what our Big Brother is. But you know the idea. So we have a celebrity Big Brother every year. I don't watch it, but like I saw a news article about who was in it this year. Do you know
Mickey
who we
Rourke.
had? Yes. Did you
Yeah.
hear? Did you hear how he
Uh-huh.
went out?
Uh-huh. I didn't hear. I heard the first. I know there were like two incidents.
Yes, there were two incidents, and both of them were like homophobia, and also I think you mean like it's hard to interpret it as anything other than telling Jojo Siwa, who's a lesbian, that he would like fuck her straight, essentially. And I'm
Yes.
like,
Yes. Yes.
is this you? Is this you in your tone down? I know I'm being watched version? Because that's fucking what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very. I know because whenever I saw that they had him, I was like, oh holy shit, this is gonna be an inferno. This is
Well,
gonna be
and
a
it's like that's how
shit
desperate
show.
he is for money that he's willing to like ruin his career over it, at least for a
Yep.
little while. I mean, he keeps bouncing back every decade or so, but yeah,
There's
I thought the same thing. Like, because the article I read, I actually watched the video. Because I was just like, how bad,
God,
really?
yeah,
It's so bad. It's so bad. And then I think the second incident was like he was like threatening that he was going to beat somebody up. And he's like
yeah,
he ended he had his career in the 90s and I think it fell apart and then he became a professional boxer.
yes, he did.
He says that's why he's had all the reconstructive surgery done on his face.
Just a sheer chaos human, like a true
Yeah.
chaos human. Um, yeah. So I just thought that was fascinating, and I knew that was going to like go down in flames very quickly. I just didn't realize quite how quickly.
Yeah.
Um, the
I
other
read
thing
some
was,
like gossip line that he needed money and that's why
I
he
mean, I'm
went
sure
on
he
it.
does. Like, I'm sure
Yeah.
he has been bankrupt many, many times in his life.
Yeah.
He seems like
Yeah.
that sort of dude, and I'm sure he got at least 1 million for that. Um, so the other thing was. So there's a thing because we were talking about the pointing earlier, and we are talking about how pointing isn't really a thing in, I'd say Irish and I would say British culture. So as a result, we had this thing that politicians did for years because they didn't want us, because if you point, you're seen as being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, they did this thing where they
With the
folded,
thumb.
yes, the thumb, and it was like, so for those of you at home, it's kind of like you're pushing the fist towards people with the thumb poked a little bit out. Like so it's not a pure thumbs up, but it's making your point. And it was just everybody did it. And it was just like you fucking little fucking show pony, you look at you, you're doing what you've been told, aren't you a good boy? And this is you're running our country, you fucking idiot. So yeah, I always thought that was so it was just so nakedly manipulative, you know. It's like, oh, forceful, but not too forceful, and you're just like, fuck off.
There's a
Anyway,
whole psychology behind it.
oh
Like
yeah,
body language, like the colors of the tie that you wear. Like yeah,
it's horrifying, truly horrifying.
I know.
Um, so yeah, I mean, any other thoughts on conversation?
There was one thing.
Yep,
Uh, have you heard of bright siding?
no,
Yeah, okay, so people like basically, okay, here's the definition. Uh, but bright siding along with the same lines as toxic positivity involves making statements that dismiss the other person's feelings or experiences. Like, I have cancer, like, oh, it could be worse. You could,
oh God.
right? So, like, it says, like, don't bright side, basically. Like, don't try and invalidate someone's experience, which I agree with.
I suppose
Uh,
that's also kind of similar to those people who are like, you know, you're like, oh well, like I just hiked this mountain, and they're like, oh yeah, well I hiked blah blah blah. I suppose it's
yeah,
really
the
similar to that.
one-uppers.
I hiked
Yes.
this one uppers. Yes, yes,
Yes, yeah. It says don't automatically give advice, which is
yes.
like
Oh,
that's hard for me. That's hard for me. Because like I think I give great advice.
but I think that's true, but I don't think you do it the way that means. So like, I think sometimes you will be talking about something and like, you know, you'll just scan over something and you'll say, oh, you know, I was having some issues with my bike, and somebody goes, oh, here's what you need to do, and I'm like. I've just literally started talking about this. You have no idea of my experience with the bike, what's actually going wrong with
Right,
the bike.
right.
You're just like jumping in. I think, in my experience, the advice that you've given, I've seen you give, is more based on listening for a long period of time. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a difference there. But
Okay.
I know what they're saying there.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I like
that,
it.
that's
So
the
my final
what
one
I
was just to ask you, do you think conversation
mm,
comes naturally to you?
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
feel like it does for me at all.
I think I was watching Wicked again last night.
Uh-huh.
And there's a line that says, just because that's your secret doesn't mean it's true.
Mm,
And I was like, ooh, that hit me so hard. So I think just because that's your perception of you, it doesn't make it true.
that's
Because
true.
I think that you are a great, like I could talk to you. I mean, we talk to each other for hours and
It's
hours
true.
and hours, and I never get bored. And
Yeah.
I never feel, you know, uh like it's a struggle for
Yeah,
you. I
yeah,
or that not from my perception.
yeah. No, I appreciate
So
that.
all to say, doesn't make it true.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you.
Thank
Love it.
you, Wicked, for that.
Thank you, Wicked. Um, okay. Shall we move on to our final section of the podcast, which is what's been bringing you joy
Mhm.
this week?
Okay, so there's this new show, and I
Okay.
saw it on billboards when I was in LA because that's what they do, and it's the best thing ever. It makes me feel like I'm so like hip and with it. It's
Uh-huh.
called The Studio.
Oh, yes. I'm curious about this.
Oh my fucking
Is it
God.
good?
Oh my fucking God. You need to watch it
Okay.
on whatever you can get it on. It's
Okay.
on like
It's
Apple
on
here,
Apple,
I
I think,
think.
and I have Apple, so I'm excited for it. Yeah, I've been
It's
meaning to check it
so
out.
for movie buffs, like
Okay.
it's so fucking funny. It's like the funniest thing I've seen in probably like 20 years.
Okay.
The
I'm gonna
writing is
prioritize that.
phenomenal. Yeah, I'm like, get on it.
Okay,
Get on
okay,
it.
awesome. Yes, no, I really had liked the look of it, and I need to check it out because like I've just finished like White Lotus and things like that, which I loved. So a lot
Hmm.
of like the shows I had been really following there have kind of come to an end. Um,
Yeah.
love it. So the thing that I've been has been bringing me joy. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the pod before. You can let me know. Is I'm reading a book about Irish fairy stories.
You did.
Did I
And
mention
you were,
that?
yeah, because you were talking about the salmon.
Okay. Oh, yes, I talked about
Was
it
that in
because I
there?
think it wasn't in there, but I
The
think I
salmon
had
of knowledge?
yes because I'd seen that at a that light display, but I think that's when I did mention the book before. I don't think I'd started it at that point.
How is it?
It's brilliant. It's so good because essentially what it is this sort of Irish researcher kind of spent time in a few specific counties in Ireland going and speaking to certain people and asking them to tell him stories. And he like writes the stories down almost as if they were told. And it's just like it's so wonderfully Irish and it has like these wonderful asides. Like it'll just like be talking about so there was this preacher lived in a town or priest that lived in a town. Great man he was. Everyone would tell you that. He would buy you a pint, and it's just these lovely wee asides, and then it just kind of goes into it, and it's written in such a like conversational and colloquial style. It's just lovely kind of place to spend some time. It's
Hmm.
yeah. So I've been thoroughly enjoying that, and
Awesome.
it just makes me want to. I've already been thinking that I want to read more or learn more about mythology and things like that. And this has really kind of given me a taste for it.
It's just so cool that you have a culture that, you own the mythology.
True, that's true. But like, I mean, when we
This is
you
my jealous face.
sure, but like, if we've also it's also been like completely co-opted. It has been attempted to be quashed by
Yeah,
the English whenever they kind of ran this whole country.
yeah.
It still happens now where they're trying to eliminate that. So I'm really happy that it still exists in some form, and it's wonderful to kind of be immersed in it for a bit.
Hmm. I almost feel like sometimes we have more access to that information than
Yeah,
you do, just because
probably true.
it's like because it was so, you know, squashed and people,
And like a lot
so
of the
many
people who
people
would know those stories ended up living in
immigrated
them.
over here.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
So
yep.
we win. Ha
We did it. Oh, fuck. All right.
ha.
Well, the end of the episode brings an L for the Irish once again. But yeah. Okay. Beth, could you tell everybody where they can find us, please?
You can find us at bendypodcast.com. And we
Ooh,
had a spike in listeners, so I don't know
hell
what happened
yeah.
there. And then it fell
Yeah.
back down. So whoever listened, keep listening.
Yeah, please do. All right, we love it. Okay, in that case, as always, folks, we'd like to remind you to stay
Bendy.
bendy.
You're showing off
Apparently
today.
so, yeah. I really got some good
Whatever.
extension there.